go from filming in our backyard or going filming just me and the tripod and the camera at Aiken Golf Club to now, hey, let's go to Pebble, play for 2 days, film our favorite video concepts and put it on the internet. The series we're doing now, going to major championship courses, playing for a couple days, those are different because it blends YouTube golf and pro golf in our own special YouTube way, makes it feel like a professional event. It's a little higher produced stuff, a little higher quality. We've been able to go to some pretty electric places. Oakmont, where the US Open is, one of the best courses in the whole world, filming that and playing out there. And it's just like, we would hardly be able to even allow to play here back in the day. Now you're saying we're going to bring our cameras and film. I'm going to Pebble in a few weeks to film, and Quail Hollow video comes out this week, and all these high-end places that we've been doesn't even feel real to go to these elite places. Given, just 4 or 5 years ago, we were me and Wesley going to local courses and a tripod and putting it on the internet.
The Field Talk podcast is presented by Roback. If you ever see me, you know that I'm sporting Roback as I am right now. One of the polos from the Azalea collection, but they've got stuff from head to toe. Every time I head on over to roback.com, that's RHOBACK.com, there is some sort of awesome new merch drop. And if you haven't visited there yet to buy something, use my name, Field, Field, for 20% off your first order. Again, that's roback.com, the best fit, the best feel. And I promise you, when you go over there, you're going to find something you love. If you love golf, like I do, you've probably found yourself at some point watching YouTube golf. That's right. There is this incredible community of content creators who also happen to be the kind of golfer that all of us dream to one day be, but few are as popular as the Bryan brothers, George and Wesley, who have made an incredible career by not just playing golf, but also by entertaining people and connecting with fans and fellow golfers through their incredibly popular YouTube page. The brothers are kind enough to join us here on the Field Talk podcast for today's episode to talk to us a little bit more about not just their playing careers and their professional playing careers, but also their journey to becoming some of the most well-known golfers on the entire tour, and in some ways because of their presence over on YouTube. All right, I've been looking forward to this one. We've got Wesley and George Bryan, and I was trying to decide who gets first questions. You go with age. You go. I don't really know what the criteria would be, so I flipped the coin. George, you're up first. Did you guys imagine growing up? Yeah, I had a feeling you'd answer as such. What did you think you guys were going to do to make money when you were growing up?
Play golf. For me, I knew it was either going to be I would be good enough to be on the PGA Tour, or I wouldn't be good enough to be on the PGA Tour, and I would teach golf lessons. Like my dad, be part of the golf academy that he has. But yeah, it was just always going to be in some way, shape, or form golf. Never would have really dreamed. Well, I mean, I guess when we were younger, this wasn't even possible to be dreamt. But yeah, never thought it would be in the form that we're doing now. But yeah, golf was all I ever knew. So one way or the other, I was going to wind up in golf.
How about you, Wesley? Did you always sort of feel the same way as your brother, being the younger brother and having your father as an influence? For those that don't know, your father taught golf, as George just mentioned. Did you always sort of feel like this path was eventually going to be yours at some point?
You know, I had a little bit of a different story because I always kind of watched George play the game. It was always a couple steps ahead of me, being a couple years older. And even when we got on like physically the same playing field, George just was always a better golfer. I knew that there was a possibility that I would end up playing golf professionally. And again, like George, I thought that it would be around golf, but I also had some different desires as well, whether it be business related stuff. Like I just, golf wasn't always going to be my end all be all. I was going to do everything it took to make it work. And again, just watching our dad, and what's ironic about the whole situation is the thing that George and I used to make fun of Pops the most for. It turns out he was way ahead of his time as one of the original content creators. Now, he didn't distribute it anywhere, but that guy had a
Yeah.
a camcorder with him at all times. And I'm pretty sure every single one of our shots from junior golf, college golf, amateur golf, everything was documented. And again, I'll give him a huge shout out for being really forward thinking on that.
So for those that, I mean, I'm sure everybody watching or listening right now has a general sense. You guys are obviously outstanding golfers, play professionally, but also you have developed one of the most popular YouTube pages, I would say, regardless of sport, on the internet right now. And I think anybody who follows golf at all has seen your channel in some way, shape, or form. It's relatable, it's fun, it's entertaining. There's trick shots, there's cool courses, there's all the things that those of us who shoot like 95 and jump for joy wish we could one day do and probably never will. But George, to the point that Wesley was just making in terms of like your dad being ahead of the curve, as you guys were growing up, like, or maybe even it was a point where you were either in college or after college. At what point did you kind of understand and realize that there was an avenue beyond just playing golf in tournaments to find a career that has become so signature for you guys now?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I mean, definitely by luck. We didn't, because even 2010, I think my senior year is when iPhones came out. So really, internet, like YouTube, was all consumed or whatever on a computer. And it wasn't till 2013 when we put our first video on, I think, Instagram or wherever it was. Um, that we even thought it was such an outside chance that, hey, we could parlay this into some sort of job. But we watched Dude Perfect and these other, and Brody Smith and some of these other like sport content creators. Obviously we knew they were doing something. I mean, it seemed as though they were doing it as some sort of job. But there was no one in golf doing it. And so we're like, well, heck, I'm broke. Golf career hasn't exactly panned out the way I thought it would. And free time, single, all these things, like, hey, Wesley, let's just put this one on the internet, see what happens, get some good response, feedback, and we're like, well, let's do another one. And it kind of just snowballed from there, where we kind of saw people watching and gravitating towards, what we put out. And at that point I was like, hey, let's just, like, again, I have time to really kind of drive this and see what, again, we don't know if it can be a job. All we want to do is try to fund our golf career. And so it just kind of snowballed, one thing after the other, a deal here, a deal there, like growing slightly as the months went on. And before you knew it, we had this golf trick shot brand, creating content and putting it on the internet, and it was a job. But we had no idea that was possible. We just kind of lucked into it, I guess.
Wesley, there's a million places I could follow up there on that answer from George. But one thing that stuck out to me was just the idea of like being able to fund your golf career. I think there are times where the average fan might see like, the money that guys are getting to go play for live, or just the purses for some of the biggest events on the PGA Tour. And they're thinking to themselves, these golfers are swimming in money. But can you sort of peel the layers back a little bit on like what the reality is for somebody playing in an event, whether it's PGA, Corn Ferry, Web.com Tour, and how, yeah, the upside is great. I mean, if you win a big event like you did back in 2017, you can have a life-altering weekend. But basically half the guys that show up at a golf tournament also go home probably in the red because they had to pay their way to get there, right?
Yeah. Once you make it to the PGA Tour, you've got there's pro-ams that you can get paid a lot of money, or a few $1,000s at least, to cover expenses to play in. Um, there's also a lot of club manufacturers and clothing and brand deals and all the logos that you see that for sure cover expenses. So once you make it to the PGA Tour, you don't have a lot of guys, at least that year, struggling financially. But on all the other tours, you do. And where George and I were at when we started our trick shot stuff was mini tours, and a lot of people don't realize for us to go play in those tournaments, it costs $1,000 or $2,000 just to enter into the tournament, and then you have to pay your expenses on top of that. And if you don't finish fifth or sixth or better out of 100 people, then you lose a lot of money for the week. And so that's what we were doing at the time. And when the trick shot stuff started getting popular, when I really knew, like, we saw a lot of eyeballs, but it didn't necessarily equate to much until, and I still remember where I was when we got, when Joe, one of our buddies from college who was managing us at the time, still is our manager. But I remember pulling over when he was talking with the Callaway folks, trying to finalize our first deal. And I was going to be getting to a place that I knew I had no service, and I pulled over. And when he threw out the number that we were talking about before, I was like squirming. And this was the time when George and I would be on mute on phone calls while our agent is out there wheeling and dealing. And the good old days. again, still remember the number that they agreed to, and fist pumping in the air and knowing that, hey, Q School's taken care of. All the tournaments I want to play in over the next couple years are taken care of. Like, it felt like a huge burden lifted to where I felt like I could legitimately chase pro golf without, and again, I was newly married as well, without having to stress financially over the next couple years. And I just felt like it bought us time to get inevitably where we wanted to be, which was the PGA Tour. A few short months after that, I ended up getting through Q School and making it and kind of leaving George high and dry, which is
Yep.
obviously another story probably for another day. A lot of tension under the Bryan household during what was a really exciting time for my life. And so anyway, it all worked out great in the end. I now at this point get to do what I love with my best bud. We get to travel to the coolest golf courses and made really good friendships and been able to make a living out of it as well with the playing stuff aside.
So George, as you mentioned, some of the most popular stuff you guys were doing at the beginning of your career as a content creator was the trick shots. And trick shots are something that we now see all over the place. I see kids throwing items into plastic bottles on Instagram, and it gets, a million views because that's how the world works these days. Can you kind of take me into like the anatomy of how to make an effective trick shot video? Like, the idea generation, the execution, how much time does it actually take? Because I feel like, we're getting the finished product, right? And I get to watch, in some cases, 30 seconds, some cases 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it might be. But that might be like an hour or even a full day long process.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, couldn't tell you anymore because we're pretty bad at it now, I feel. Never were that great at it. We just got lucky. We had time on our hands, and Wesley was very skilled at golf, but also hand-eye coordination stuff. But no, it was just like you kind of how can we get this ball out of midair into like a fairway and use many different objects like as possible, different locations, like from a roof, from above him, below him, with as many objects banking it off things, and so you're it was endless for golf, because there's a lot of different ways to get a ball out of midair, but then also how can we make it in the hole in a fun, creative way. But no, it was back, probably 2014, 15, the trick shot heyday. I mean, it was a lot of like day of, on the fly creating fun or what we thought would be a cool way to get the ball out of midair. But it wasn't a whole lot of like week-long prep or this, because again, we weren't very organized. We were just kind of like shooting off the hip. But
Yeah,
no, it
but
was,
also at the time you got to keep in mind there was nothing on the internet of what we were doing, so everything we were
yeah,
coming up with was basically brand
yeah,
new. And so we had being the pioneers of the space, we had the luxury of being able to come up with just about anything, and it would be the first time people would have ever
yeah,
seen anything of the sort. So
yeah,
we did
which
have that
helped.
going in our favor.
Yeah, so we didn't have to like get super creative or like figure out how to take it to the next level. We were just putting out stuff that no one's seen and kind of being ourselves throughout the whole process. But no, it was cool. But at the time, like we always knew in the back of our minds, like we wanted to focus more on like playing golf and doing real golf things. And so like we wouldn't spend if the shot was too hard, we're like, man, that's gonna take us could take us like hours, 3 or 4 hours, and like I'd rather go hit golf balls or play instead of do that. And so we would always like kind of just do not the bare minimums, because again we came up with some really cool things, but we didn't want to spend like days on one shot, which Dude Perfect, some of these other guys did, because again we in the back of our mind it's like, hey, we still want to like chase pro golf and like be good golfers. So that's why I feel like there's some things that we left on the table, but at the same time, like it got Western on the PGA Tour. It allowed us to like do both, create cool stuff, create a business, but also work on our games to hopefully, one day make it the PGA Tour.
Yeah, I would say that 90% of the stuff that you saw on the internet happened within 2.5 minutes.
Huh.
Yeah.
Dang. That's humbling. I was hoping you'd tell me like 2.5 hours. And so somebody like me who can barely put a drive down the middle of the fairway could one day hit a cool trick shot too.
Yeah, there were some ones that did take longer than that, and those are the ones that
Yeah,
it definitely broke us.
Yep.
Oh man. So as you guys are starting to see like this incredible success on the content creation side, like how did it impact your golf career day to day, Wesley? Like as you're thinking about some of the tournaments that you played in, as people start to become more and more aware of who you guys are, not just because of what you do when you're playing golf professionally, but also because of the content that you're creating. Did you feel like it impacted the amount of fans you had? Did you feel like you had a stronger connection with the people that are showing up to golf events? Could you sort of sense a tangible impact when you're out there on the course?
Yeah, I started to notice it over the last really year and a half, when you show up and again, the tournaments that I'm playing in and the people that I'm paired with are not usually the biggest draws on the PGA Tour. And again, starting to see at times hundreds and hundreds of people show up to watch me play golf, knew that that was only attributed to YouTube. And then socially, all the support that we got in the middle of a tournament. Obviously, that's due to YouTube. And again, the cool part was starting to see people show up and make comments like as if they're really like part of our family. A lot of the inside jokes that we have, and again, we had a Discord of what we call a bunch of idiots, but that's it's a term of endearment around our camp. And they would show up and we'd have our boots on the ground that would be informing and putting every single one of my shots in the Discord during tournament rounds and really build a cool community over there. And again, the amount of support that we've seen, even in the midst of what I got going on right now, and through the suspension and everything, it's been humbling. And again, all I've ever wanted to do was be able to one, play golf, but two, have a platform to impact and grow the game, that's given us so much. So YouTube's been a great avenue for that.
Yeah. So, by the way, I do notice, like, if you're making a hard charge up the leaderboard or have, a lead after a specific round of a tournament, just even on Twitter, I see like when the tour posts the leaderboard and you're at or near the top, the engagement on those tweets tends to be far higher than a typical leaderboard tweet from the PGA Tour account. George, you think about sort of the space that you guys are in right now. YouTube is in some ways the way of the future, right? There are people
Hmm.
that are probably watching this right now over on YouTube. I've got young children, and I think there's a chance by the time that they're able to control the remote themselves, that might be where they defer to. They open up a TV or a computer and they go to YouTube. What do you think has been some of the, like, is the success or the secret sauce for you guys? Do you think it's just creating the content that you do, or was there a process, like learning how to like get your content elevated on what has become this like incredibly crowded space, right? There are tons of people now on YouTube creating golf content. What has allowed you guys to sort of keep your edge near the very top of that totem pole?
Yeah, I think it's everything. We from the beginning wanted to make focus on making high level, I guess, do what we do well. So like play good golf mostly is what we do well. We have a great relationship between me and Wesley that's relatable on a lot of fronts. It's funny, it's maddening, it's like annoying, all of like everything that anyone who has siblings like can relate to. But then we keep it family friendly, so everyone can watch. Try to as we went on, we have the two guys we have working for us, Cam and Carney now, but Carney coming on board to like investing in a proper someone who could film and take things off our plate so we could focus on golf. Whatever, all those things added to what we got going on right now. But in the beginning, just being who we are, not trying to put on a front for YouTube, but just like, hey, show us having fun on the golf course, show our competitive side. Um, know that we are good golfers. That some people would be tuning in to watch some, at the time, I mean, still a PGA Tour player level golf on YouTube and get like a closer look than what you get on on telecasts. Um, but then you kind of produce it in a way that's a little different than what traditional golf telecast looks like. So I mean, again, it's all these things. Um, Everyone going to YouTube, that's been a trend for I guess a little bit, but especially golf now. Like I said, there's a lot of people doing it, but just sticking to what we do well and not trying to be somewhere we're not. We're not trying to be, whoever else out there. Like we're just being George and Wesley. And again, we know we have a little bit different. Most people on YouTube aren't. Most pro golfers aren't going for the grind that it is to put out a YouTube video. Like we knew that, so like we have this different thing that's like, oh wow, like I can see high level golf on YouTube, which usually it was always having to be on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday on Golf Channel or CBS or whatever you watch PGA Tour golf. So it's been a cool thing to, like, again, put a lot of hard work into it, but also just be ourselves, have fun, and then yeah,
Yeah,
it's been
and
wild, truly.
what George isn't mentioning there is all the stuff. Like we do study YouTube golf. We spend a lot of, or yeah, I'd say we spend a lot of hours of watching what's going on, trends, and how people set up videos and intros and cuts and different shots and camera angles and thumbnails and titling, as well as looking at the analytics and seeing, knowing that half of the people that watch our stuff are watching on a television in a living room. And so us investing in the right camera gear and setup to be able to have it shot in a way that's formatted well, knowing that our audience is watching in a living room instead of just on an iPhone. So we spent a lot of time, and then also in comment sections, listening to what people like and don't like, and moments that they really enjoy, and conversations that we're having that spark a lot of engagement. And there's times where I've been a little too mean and brash and had to tone it back a little bit. There's times where George has gotten really whiny and complainy, and we've had to tone it back there. And but yeah, it's a lot of reading comments, engaging with our audience, listening to what they say, and again, building a brand. What George hit on is most important for us is knowing that it's going to be in living rooms, and then also the what we live by is wanting it to be family friendly and clean and honoring to the Lord, and that's at the end of the day the reason we continue the platform and want to grow is for the game of golf, and do it in an honoring way.
It's awesome. I mean, golf is a game that some people view as this sort of like, it's a very proper game in some people's eyes, and television broadcasts sound quieter, more reserved than if you're watching an NBA game or an NFL game. And you guys have made golf sound like the kind of thing and look like the kind of thing that maybe my kids, who are only 3 and almost 2, will want to do in 3 or 4 years when they are a little more powerful and equipped to actually pick up a club and swing it properly. Wesley, George mentioned how, like, not a lot of golfers are now out there doing the YouTube grind, but we are starting to see, and it's not limited to YouTube, you see it over on Instagram or even Twitter, more and more golfers produce their own content. If when you're out there playing a tour event, like, anybody ever come up to you and say, like, thanks for the inspiration there? Because some of the biggest names in all of golf right now are starting to make a little bit of an inroads there on the social media side themselves.
Yeah, I mean, see, or used to see, a lot of players coming up asking like, how is it that you do what you do? And I've been thinking about maybe wanting to get into it a little bit as people's careers are winding down, or as they're having less and less success on the course, and seeing us being able to have a successful brand that's not related to the score on the scorecard. And it's appetizing for a lot of people, but again, it's invasive. It's there's a lot of hard work and time, and it's going to take years and years to build, which I don't think a lot of people are cut out for. But on the like the I would say fan front of people that come out to the events, there's so many kids that have come up and been like, "Oh, I love your stuff. We watch every single video," and that's really cool, seeing the kids wanting to come out and support and watch me because they've watched on YouTube. And again, we try every day. Like, not every day is a great day, but even in the midst of some poor rounds on tour, knowing that there's people out watching, and I'm somewhat of a role model in the game of golf to them, and it is tough battling emotions at time out on the battlefield, so to speak. But again, we take a lot of joy and pride in uh, one, creating good content that you see post produced, but also living out that's exactly how we are off camera in real life. And there's a level of authenticity I think that our content brings that is not always the case when you run into your superstar childhood heroes or whatever, and they disappoint from what you expect. That I've had a couple sour tastes in my mouth from that, and I just don't ever want to be that guy.
Name names. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Don't do that. George, your content, as we have established, sort of a lot of it early was trick shot related, but it's become so much more than that. I mean, you guys are doing some of the coolest shoots in all of golf. As you sort of think back on some of the content you guys have created, are there particular courses or places that you visited that you maybe place in a separate category? Is like, this just felt like the most special of locations for us to be at?
Yeah, the kind of series we're doing now, the last year, the major cut stuff, going to major championship courses, playing for a couple days. Those are different because it blends YouTube golf and pro golf, and kind of, in our own special YouTube way, makes it feel like a professional event, but also, the it's just a little higher produced stuff, a little higher quality, but also we're at higher quality golf courses. So I mean, we've been able to go to some pretty electric places, and Oakmont, where the U.S. Open is in a month or so. One of the best courses in the whole world. Filming that and playing out there, and it's just like, God, this never would have, like, we would hardly be able to even allow to play here back in the day. Now you're saying we're gonna bring our cameras and film. I'm going to Pebble in a few weeks to film, and Quail Hollow video comes out this week, and all these other, like, these high end places that we've been. Doesn't even feel real, and it just does feel like go from filming in our backyard or going filming just me and the tripod and the camera at Aiken Golf Club to now, hey, let's go to Pebble and play for 2 days, film, tell us, do one of our favorite video concepts in weeks, and put it on the internet. So it's been pretty cool to go to these, like, elite places, given just 4 or 5 years ago we were just me and Wesley going to local courses and just in a tripod and putting it on the internet.
You guys have come a long way, Wesley. This is maybe a dumb question, but one I've wondered as I've watched content on YouTube from golf is, like, when you guys go for one of these shoots, like, do they shut the course down for like a couple hours? Do you guys take over the entire club? Like, what does that look like? How do you actually execute these videos?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that was always difficult, the availability of. A lot of times it was calling and asking if we could film, and then going through an approval process and all of that. And now people trust what we do. We show up to golf courses like Oakmont and be able to film the three of us, put on that production, and be able to do it in around 4 hours. So we play a normal pace or round of golf, and that's walking and filming every shot and being able to play in around 4 hours. So we can move and keep up with pace of play. Uh, but there has been times where they kind of shut down golf courses for us, and that's been awesome as well. And uh, yeah, we got a lot of really cool stuff on the horizon, and we're excited for sure.
George, I'd imagine if you see youngsters, they probably connect with you guys. Like, do you feel like you've helped grow the game? You guys have used that term a little bit. Do you feel like you're seeing sort of a notable mark on a next generation of golf? Because it does feel like, maybe this is totally anecdotal, maybe it's because I've become a father more recently than some, but like, it feels like I'm seeing more and more young children taking a vested interest in golf, which is this incredible lifetime sport at an earlier age. It feels like golf has become cooler.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely, I'm trying to think, when we were coming along, it was, we were just watching PGA Tour rounds on TV, and so, like, that's the only thing we could relate to. But now you're having, all the amount of creators that we have, that you're able to play golf, and kids can watch it, but also you get to know them, you get to, like, know their story, follow their journey, and just get involved with different people within the game, other than just the highest level. So you can, me and Wesley. I mean, he's on the PGA Tour. Me, not a PGA Tour player. I have aspiration to get there, so people can follow along. Like, hey, what, George is good, but he's not quite good enough. But let's follow along to see if you can. No, that doesn't necessarily. You don't have to be a young person to follow along that journey, but you are seeing, there's different outlets that kids can watch these days, and it's cool that they choose us to watch and support, because, again, we want to usher in and give back, the fun that we had when we were young, that our dad instilled, or that our dad showed us how fun golf was. We want to be able to play a part and with other people, and it's cool that people view us as fun, as good enough golf to like, oh wow, they're good at golf, or man, you guys are have fun on the golf course, just to inspire them in whatever way, whether it's like to reach the PGA Tour one day or just to have more fun on the golf course and get into the game. And so it's cool that we can have, middle school, high schoolers, young kids, that they enjoy what we do. So again, that's the goal, is to show how fun golf is and give back, that all that golf has given us.
Yeah,
Wesley,
and
I know.
what?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say what George didn't. He mentioned about not being on the PGA Tour, but
No, I've been
what
kind
we've
of,
noted, yeah, but what we've noticed and seen, and again, from partners like Roback or Tacoma or some of the other ones that we work with, there's a significant investment being made in the YouTube space, and it just goes to show that George doesn't have to be on the PGA Tour, doesn't have to be on the top of leaderboards for him to be able to impact the game of golf. And as far as like golf ambassadors, for someone to get on George's level of impact for the game of golf, whether it be consumer habits or just recognizability in public or whatever it would be, would have to be a top 20 player in the world probably to be able to have the same level of impact in the game of golf as a guy like George has right now. And then a guy like Grant Horvat, you'd have to be a top 5 player in the world and on the first page of just about every leaderboard to have the level of impact in the game of golf that Grant Horvat is having. And so that's really cool to see this monumental shift towards how the game is being consumed, as long as it's in good hands. And so I think right now YouTube golf is in a really good space. I still see a lot of room for growth, and all the creators, the ones that are doing it really well right now, have a passion for it as well. And you don't see people like getting burnout from it and changing from what's gotten them successful. You've just seen them refining their product. And so I think there's still a longevity that YouTube has that I feel like people are just seeing it as like a little flash in the pan. But the fact that again, companies like Roback are willing to take flyers on guys like us leads us to believe that we're in a pretty good spot.
It's really well said, by the way. I wish I could bottle up that answer and use it to regurgitate it, because I feel very strongly about how you just encapsulated all the contributions of you guys and what YouTube golf has become for fans like myself. I want to be mindful of your time, so kind of wrap it up here and go back to 2017 at the RBC, where George, you're on the bag for Wesley, and Wesley, you end up winning a PGA Tour event. George, sort of walk us through, what was that like for you? I mean, it's your brother, it's somebody who, you're one of your, if not your best friend, you're one of your closest friends in the world, your business partner now. What was that experience like for you guys to see a lifelong goal come to fruition?
yeah. Funny enough, I got fired from the bag the year prior, so
How'd you
I
get
was
back
only
in the
on for
good
one.
graces?
Yeah, he came crawling back, said, "Hey, you forgot about me over here." And so it's like, well, but yeah, 2016, finished caddying, won Corn Ferry Tour event, got his PGA Tour card basically. Then I focused on playing golf myself, because he knew like I wasn't going to be a full time caddy, and he needed someone that, like, now that he got his PGA Tour card locked up, he needed to find someone to like be his guy. And so, going through that, watching him play really well, I knew the win was like in 2017. Like, he was playing some of the best golf in 2016 out of anyone on the planet. So I knew it was only a matter of time. 2017 got off to a good start. And then I'm actually heading down to Argentina, and like he's playing well. I'm like, Thursday, Friday. I'm leaving Sunday, and I'm like Thursday, Friday, plays well Saturday. I'm like, he's in the hunt. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I'm supposed to be flying out at like 5 o'clock. Like, I'm gonna miss his win. And Sunday keeps creeping along. He's playing well. I'm like, my goodness, like he's actually gonna win, and I'm gonna be stuck on a plane. And anyway, he ends up winning. And right as I'm getting on the flight, and it was really cool, because again, it was a lifelong dream to be a PGA Tour winner. I was sad that I couldn't be there, because I was like, I'm going chasing PGA Tour Latin America, trying to get my game. At the time, trying to get the PGA Tour, Corn Ferry Tour. And it was really cool, because I remember, he FaceTimed me from the top of the lighthouse, and we just kind of sat there and chatted for a few minutes amongst the craziness. I'm in a Delta plane. Wesley is a million things going on. Whatever, 8 years ago to look back. It was definitely really cool, but it was a weird time, because again, I'm playing and I'm focused and I'm like torn. I was like, Wesley, do I just leave and like come down and like what do I do? And so I'm in Argentina the next day. I'm like, why am I down here? Like I would much rather be in South Carolina celebrating, but it's a cool story to tell. And now Wesley PGA Tour winner.
Yeah. Easy does it.
That's all there is to it. Well, how about for you, Wes? What was that like? I mean, I'm sure, again, one of the crowning moments of your life individually to hold up a trophy as a PGA Tour winner. When you reflect back on that, what does it mean to you?
Obviously a lot. I mean, the house that I'm in right now and was basically right over that. That's what made the decision to build the house we're in. And so I'm reminded of it quite often. But more than that, it was, again, we had dreamed of playing on the PGA Tour. My pops had recorded every single final round of the PGA Tour from CBS when we were kids, and we would watch replays of Tigers dominating wins and around our living room. And all I ever wanted to do was, and again, part of it, the part that's really cool is when I got through Q school to get on the, what's now the Corn Ferry, it was the web.com tour at the time. Just teeing it up in one of those events felt like a lifelong dream accomplished. And then when I got my PGA Tour card, it was like, you know what? If nothing else happens from this day forward, like I can say I played on the PGA Tour. And it felt like it just kept getting better and better. And then I found myself winning. And again, if I could pick any tournament in the entire world to win, maybe apart from a Masters or US Open or Open Championship or PGA, I don't know. I'd probably still
Yeah,
take.
you take a major over that. Come on.
Well, I don't know though. Being able to win at Harbortown in my home state, a tournament that my dad played in many years ago that George actually did caddy for in that tournament. It just made it so special. And again, I felt like I was kind of living on borrowed time on the PGA Tour, and full circle moment, I kind of got myself kicked off. But I just never thought that my game was like truly good enough to compete week in and week out. Now I knew my good was good enough occasionally, but I mean, when I was out there and you watch the Tigers and the Rorys and at the time Spieth and Justin Thomas and VJ Singh, whatever, it's just like all these guys are so much better at the game than I am. Now I can sneak up occasionally on them, but just physically they had a skill set that unfortunately I was not born with. Um, but it's been a really cool ride. Unfortunately, through the YouTube stuff, we found ourselves in the position we're in right now, and again, hopefully it gets resolved. But at the end of the day, looking back at it, like I got to live out my dream. I got to win quite literally one of the coolest golf tournaments on the planet, and I've got no regrets whatsoever.
Well, safe to say that you guys and your mark on golf is unmistakable. You guys have found a way to reach the fans and help grow the game. And again, I wish I could just take Wesley's answer about the impact of not just George, but you guys collectively on fans everywhere. Because I think if you were to ask people some of their favorite golfers in the world, it would not take long to get down the list until you reach the Bryan brothers. So it's great to hear from both of you. Thanks for joining the show today. Congrats on all that you guys have achieved up to this point and continued success, which I know is inevitable for the two of you and the impact you're making on golf.
Thank you, Field.
Well, thanks for having us.
Huge shout out to the Bryan brothers. Seriously, as a golf fan, I absolutely love watching their content. They just make golf really, really fun and relatable for people like me that wish they were good at golf, but frankly, just aren't. A big shout out to our partners over at Roback who make this podcast possible. RHOBACK is roback.com. And if you haven't yet checked out any of their stuff, like this polo I'm rocking right now, and you want to give it a shot, go to the website and enter the promo code FIELD, F-I-E-L-D, for 20% off your first order. It's the best fit and the best feel. For those of you that have enjoyed the Field Talk podcast here on YouTube, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and press that subscribe button. Certainly helps us and helps you to get all of the latest content right into your YouTube feed. And finally, if you've been listening and the audio version, wherever you get your podcasts, ratings, reviews, very helpful for us as well. Until next time, we'll talk to you all again soon here on the Field Talk Podcast.